Hello everybody. In today's part of the Complete MIDI Pedalboard series, we're going to be looking at the individual pedals that I'll be using and how to access their MIDI functions. We'll also be taking a look at all the different types of cables that I have on hand, just to show off the different connectors you can use and the different brands. Alright, so let's get right into it. This is the Morningstar MC8. This is the brains to my entire pedalboard. To access its MIDI functions are quite simple. All you have to do is hold down the E and H buttons to access your settings. Then you'll go to your global page, your MIDI channel, and then you'll simply scroll up or down to change what channel you want it to be on. My MC8 is going to be on channel 1 just to keep things simple. Once you're done, you'll press save. Then you can simply exit out of it and move on to the next pedal. Alright, up next is the Jackson Audio Bloom. To set the MIDI channel on this pedal and on the Jackson Audio New Wave, you're going to hold down both buttons while turning a knob. On the New Wave, it is the depth knob. On the Bloom, it is the Bloom knob. So we're going to hold down the comp and Bloom buttons, apply power, and as you can see, it is now blinking once for channel 1. And you just simply increase it until you get your desired count of blinking. That's channel 2, and that is what we're going to keep this on. Alright, up next is the Jackson Audio Optimist. Now, this pedal, along with the Asabi and all the other drives by Jackson Audio, get their MIDI channels the same way. So for today, we're just going to show the Optimist. To change your MIDI channel, you're going to apply OD1 while plugging in power. Now this light will flash to indicate which channel you're on. We're on channel 1 right now. To change the channel, you're going to press your OD2 button. I find it's easiest to hold it down until it blinks, and then it should take the channel. There we are on channel 2. Alright, now we're on channel 3, and that is the channel that we want this to be on. Simply release the foot switch, and it will save it to the chip for your next use. Alright, now it gets back to being a little bit easier to set the MIDI channel with the GFI Synesthesia. Alright, once it's booted up, you're going to hold down the left foot switch to go to the global menu. Then you're going to simply scroll down until you find your MIDI channel. You're going to select your channel, which mine will be on 5, and then you're going to hit done. Now, last but not least is the Alexander Pedals Rewind and Space Force. Both these pedals get changed the same exact way, so we'll just be showing the rewind for now. You're going to apply power, wait for it to boot up, and then you're going to hold down your control knob and then press the left foot switch. And then it's right here on the very first part of the menu. You have your MIDI to make sure that your control input is MIDI. And then you go to channel and set your desired channel from 1 to 16. This pedal will be channel 6. This channel will be 7. Then you simply hold down this button again to save it. So now that we're done with how to change the channels, let's talk connections. First off, we're going to talk about TRS. Now, all these pedals accept TRS MIDI connections, and on the 2 Alexander pedals, they actually accept TS MIDI connections as well. First off, with this TRS cable. Now, if you order a MIDI box from Disaster Areas and add on MIDI cables at your checkout, this is what they're going to include. These are just generic patch cables. If you want to look at something that has a little thinner profile, but still is going to be sturdy, you might look at something like this. This is a pancake TRS cable. It is fairly flat and is also very rugged with its construction. Now, if you're really hurting for space and you need just a little bit more room, these Rockboard TRS cables are definitely going to be your choice. My one concern with these, and I have not used them for long enough to determine whether this is a valid thing or not, is just their durability since they are flat cables. Whenever you bend them around, they're kind of rigid, so I don't know about longevity of them being bent at weird angles. And the last cable I have today is this Ernie Ball TRS patch cable. I have this little short 3-inch cable because this will be the one that is actually going to go in between my Space Force and Rewind. Since on the Rewind and the Space Force, you can actually do a TRS output of the left channel, and it will now be full stereo going into the stereo input of your next pedal. Now, as I said, these pedals actually accept TS connections as well, so I'm going to be using the square plug SP400s for my MIDI jacks, as well as my main jacks on all my pedals. All right, up next is your standard 5-pin MIDI jacks. All right, first up is this kind of cable. This is kind of your standard custom cable that you can change the direction of the heads on. You can change them around depending on the orientation of your pedal. One thing about these are they are not very small. They will take up a lot of room, and if you are having space issues, these will definitely not be it. All right, up next is a very popular brand as well. These are the One Control MIDI cables. You can take off this back plate and change the direction of this cable to either side, again, depending on what orientation your cables have. See, like right now on the Synesthesia, I would probably need to swap it to go down so that it's not sticking up towards my foot switches. But on my ACS1, as you can see, is oriented correctly. Again, these are pretty high off of your pedal. So if you have space issues, again, these are not going to be the best option for you. And something small to note for my use especially, these do not fit through the holes on a Temple Audio board. So if you're someone like me that likes to run your cables underneath as much as possible, these definitely do not work for that. All right, up next are Rockboard MIDI cables. These are their Rock Flex cables. Now you may be saying these look a lot like Morningstar's MIDI cables, and they do because I actually took off the plastic stress relief that came on these because I was looking for something small and able to move around and get into tight spaces. And when you compare them side by side, you don't really get a lot more room out of them, but these do fit through the Temple Audio connections, so they work perfectly for me. Last but not least are the newest cables I have, which are these Rockboard flat cables. Now, the one reason why I had not owned these before are because I was using a Strymon Big Sky and a Strymon Timeline, then these do not work for those cables. The one major downside to these are they are pretty locked in with which way they are facing, so you have to make sure that your pedal has the correct orientation so they will face away from each other, like on this Synesthesia. Because what you end up with is a super flat surface, super tight in case you're running out of space, and they work amazing. But if you're using a pedal like the ACS1, obviously it is covering your other jack, and that does not work very well. No bueno. All right, so now all of my pedals are connected and set up for MIDI, and all of my connections are ready to go. If you have a suggestion for a great brand of MIDI cables that you use, make sure to leave that in the comments. I would love to see them. If you have any questions, feel free to also leave a comment, and I'll do my best to answer it. Thanks for watching.